Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we are decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We've been working on the Doppelganger 10 and 40 overlays, and we're going to keep doing that today. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, you can go to soten.z.dev, where you can learn more. Find a link to GitHub and a link to Discord as well. I put up a bunch of PRs last night. I don't know that any of them have made it in. So one of them was all of the BO4 and RBO5 work that doesn't look like it, that we've been doing on the stream in the last week or two, just syncing what I have locally back up with Zytomo's master repo. And then another one, when I was looking at one of the last functions that we worked on the stream, one of the things that stood out to me was we had a print line with a label PL demo timer, and currently we do not have this field labeled. Many times when there's debug print statements like this, they're using the field name. So I went through all of the code, and it's several dozen files that ended up being affected, but replaced this with PL demo timer. Josh Schrader suggested that I modify GDOP, and I'm going to try that this morning. I don't know if it's going to work, but his suggestion was when defining the symbol, you can set a size. And then when Splat comes through and tries to assign labels to things, it'll use this as the base plus whatever additional offset there is. So I'm going to try to do that and see if I can keep these other fields in place. I like having these fields in place because it makes switching to field access extremely easy during decomp. But I also like the idea that all of these would be captured under one GDOP level. Hey, Entropy Gravity Well, good to have you. Entropy Gravity Well says 6.5 hours to go on his last Mandalorian attempt. 25.5 hours in. How stressful. Are you able to recycle your filament for bad prints? I didn't necessarily get the scale. Is this like 6 to 8 inches in height? 6 to 8 inches for those of you who speak metric. That's like, I don't know, 45 meters or something like that, I think. Give or take. I actually am a fan of the metric system. And I know. I didn't even saying 2.54 to convert to centimeters. I know. I just like being funny about the metric system. We have our superior imperial system. How could it not be superior if the emperor has declared it so? Oh, 130. Oh, no, I'm going to have to do the math myself. 133 millimeters is 5 inches-ish. That's a pretty good size. Can you print these mostly hollow? I'm hoping so. All right, so what? I'm getting distracted. with 3D printing. Every time I go, my 3D printer I keep in the garage, mostly for tidiness purposes, and that means though I can't. When I start prints, I can monitor them over Octoprint, but not being there and not hearing the noises as things take a turn for the worse and other things like that makes it difficult. And I still have some issue with my printer that I haven't figured out yet. Okay, 5% infill's not bad. Oh, 550 millimeters. That is crazy. So I'm guessing that's so that's like 22 inches. That's huge. I should really grab my my big multi-part slug one day and show that on the stream. So what I'm doing now is attempting to set the size, and this worked. And I'm a little surprised that it worked. I didn't think that it would. So what I want to see is, this was for VO4. I want to see what this ends up looking like in. Oh, so it does. I mean, this is like the best of both worlds. I get offsets, and I get the ones that I have explicitly labeled. This is great. So appreciate comment from Josh Schrader about doing this. I'm going to do this over on the RBO5 side as well. And add a little comment here. Am I logged in? All right, so in this PR, basically Josh is saying add size, and then we'll get offsets, which is really nice. I liked having the names, so I pushed back a little bit, but now testing it, it looks like it works fine. So I'm going to update that PR with these changes. I want to rerun make format because it's possible that it's going to change something about these, either like spacing on the comment or other things like that. And so I just want to make sure that I don't screw anything up that way. And I'm going to, I like amending the commits and keeping a clean history. So the way that merges are done on this project is that they're all squashed down anyway, and the message that's taken is the one for opening the PR, and the subject of the commit is the title of the PR. I still like keeping a clean history. I understand from a reviewer's perspective, maybe not having a clean history for the PRs. At the company before the last company that I worked for, we had our own, actually we used, I shouldn't say we had our own, we used a review board internally, and review board basically kept the history for you, and so you didn't have to, it didn't matter what your commit history looked like, but then when you would do the merge, you'd merge from your actual branch. So it was a little bit different, but I really liked how it would keep snapshots. And I mean, GitHub does keep snapshots as well. But then, so Review Board made it extremely easy. Actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't keep that commit. That's stupid. That's really stupid. Review Board let you look at the different changes as they were pushed and see what the delta was between each of them, which I liked a lot. I do like GitHub's pull request interface, and it's been a decade since I've used Review Board, so maybe I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses. I don't know. But let's get back to what we were working on. I am going to rename this. It pulled in the RO data. Is the project forcing forward-only merges? That is a good question. I'm not the project. I don't manage the project. So from my perspective, yes, I only get forward merges. I would imagine so, because we have so many. There's about a dozen people at any given time working on different parts, and so it would make the most sense to have forward-only merges. It would just be way too disruptive to not do that. All right, so I pulled in the PSP version. It looks like I didn't save it, and I've restarted my computer since then. So it'll take a little bit. I'm going to fix this one, it's going to take me a little bit to get the PSP version set up. If you don't remember from yesterday, what we were working on is another one of these functions that I've classified as door related. I don't know for sure that they are door, but that's what it seems like to me. And this one was on the larger side. It's a long function, but not necessarily a complex function. I went through and just did some basic cleanup yesterday during the stream, but now I'm going to go and look at the PSP decomp and deal with some of the stuff in these lower areas, things that are likely, like absolute value or mod or other things like that, that may not appear clearly on the GCC optimized code generation, but may be a little easier to follow from the MetroWorks unoptimized code. So I'm working on all my slides and everything for this Game on Expo talk, and was just generating kind of some toy examples of what we might see with an optimized versus non-optimized compiler. And I just chose something really simple, like and we have some functions like this. I might go back and try to find a specific function, but I was just writing something on my own. But basically, is a field in struct A larger than struct B? And what the MetroWorks code would look like is read the value from struct A, read the value from struct B, do the signed comparison. Based on that signed comparison, branch to one place, which is going to set the return register, and then branch again to the end of the function, versus and the second branch set the other return value if it was false, and continue on. And the optimized version is read this value, read that value, store the result of the signed comparison, and then return as like 4 instructions versus 16. And I thought I did a pretty good job illustrating what an optimizer can do for you if you have it. So I'm going to go through and just kind of skim what M2C is doing over here versus what I have on this side. One interesting thing is these are out of order. And if I find anything of interest, I'll... no, it's not a game dev. It's just a video game conference. Game on Expo. in Phoenix, the Southwest's largest video game convention. It's actually pretty cool. So John Lester, who's Gamester81 on YouTube, he puts it on. I've been once before. I was specifically I have a relatively large video game collection and some pretty rare and kind of not what's the right word? Unreplaceable items in it. So I have like a Snatcher dev disc, for example, for the Sega CD. Mortal Kombat stuff. I mentioned earlier I have this backup disc from Probe that I just got. I like collecting kind of that kind of stuff. It's just weird one-offs, either internal dev stuff or whatever. And so I wanted to go talk to John Hancock about insurance and how he insures, because he has like 30 some complete collections of different consoles, and unfortunately he did not have a good answer for me. Impossible to live in which way? Hey, Aldrich, good to have you back. Impossible in what way? Cost? Heat? All right. So let's see what. Last summer was very brutal. I will not lie. So here we have a case 3. No, case 3 is relatively similar. All this is looking pretty good until we get down here, and so this is what I'm going to focus on. So one of the things that I think is, not to get like too, I say political in that like elected officials kind of sense, nothing one way or the other. There was, and maybe this is controversial too, there's a bunch of alfalfa farms in the north that basically had unlimited access to groundwater, and those were shut down, or their leases weren't renewed. And so I think that's going to help a lot. It would be nice, I think, personally, to be able to have additional access to water, but it is what it is. All right, so looking through here, there are some places where the PSP does a really good job of showing us where temporary variables are not necessary, that we don't necessarily see on the PlayStation side, because every read is redone from memory on the PSP. I really, not that the PSP has any performance issues with Soten, nor is it I think, way that most people want to play the game. But it does seem like there could be a significant amount of optimization. That's down here. I'm not compiling. Oh, because of some kind of artificial intelligence. Let me go through and just kind of go top to bottom. And yeah, this year there was 150 some, maybe 160 days without rain. That was pretty brutal. So we have a ton of variables that we don't need, and that's reflected by the stack pointer. So these showed up backwards in the M2C decomp. This is a little funny, but it looks fine. This not equal to 0. When it's masked like this, typically that means It's just a truthy value. And so that tells us that this is probably a Boolean as well. The codebase is pretty consistent about Booleans, but also timers and some other things being just checked for truthiness here. Yeah, the controls are, that's one of the things that surprises me, I think, about the Requiem collection, especially. The fact that it's ported to something with a very analogous controller to the PlayStation 1. I mean, all the buttons are there, and that they didn't go back and fix the top button controls. And you might know this offhand, Eldritch. I was going back through, and I showed this slide yesterday. Maybe I can get it back up here. But my understanding is that the PSP versions are based off of either 1.0 or 1.1 of the JP version, rather than 1.2 or anything that came out in the West. Let me see. I need to, there's a few that I don't know for sure. And let's see if this is there. So this is my schizophrenic map of Soten, which probably has errors. 0.97. I haven't looked at the 1.1 or 1.2 JP discs, but I did actually. I don't know if you've seen this either. There definitely is mistakes in this, so if there's any obvious ones, feel free to point them out. So I did look at overlays for the versions that I have, and basically color coded them based on where the bins are identical. And so there's some there's some interesting things, like, and again, this table doesn't have 1.1 or 1.2. So the HD version that's on the disc, many of the stage overlay, I guess all the stage overlays are unchanged from 1.0. And I should grab a 1.1 and 1.2 disc eventually and see how those differ as well. And I do need to go look a little closer at the Android and iOS versions as well. They don't I don't think anything has changed in them, because nothing has changed for the PS4. But where they put their overlays was not as obvious. I don't think there's been a lot of documentation, because nobody cares about them as much as the other versions. Good to have you back, by the way. I said that already, but I mean it. I'm going to create a new entity extension because oh no, this background light is probably fine. But this does need to be a it should be a bool. So let's look at that. Let's see what we have. Yeah, I was looking into that as well. So on the PS4, they were able to use like Sony's PSP emulator, and I've just done some like strings spelunking and things like that on the iOS version. I think I might have put the ARM binary in Ghidra, and I mean, there's a MIPS emulator there, and my best guess is that they already had a PS1 shim compatibility shim for Xbox 360, and it seems like they used that as well for the PSP version. And so maybe there wasn't much additional work that they had to do to create that shim, because I don't think they use a lot of PSP features except for saving. I don't know. It is recompiled for PSP, and so it does have some of the additional instructions that weren't on the PS1. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. Here we have a store word instead of a store byte. Not sure why though, because background light is a bool. And it actually, bool may be so here we're type defing bool as an enum, and I mentioned that actually just a few days ago. This is not a safe thing to do because you can't guarantee the size of an enum, and in this case, MetroWorks is deciding that because it's an enum, it's going to use an integer size full 32 bits. The only guarantees that the C-spec gives you for what the size of a type for an enum is that all enumerated values will fit into that. So MetroWorks could use an 8-bit type here, but it is deciding to not do that. I'm pretty sure we have bool, though, defined not as an enum, but as a uint8 or a u8. If not, we probably should, though I don't know what that would break. No, we don't. Yeah, this really limits what compatibility that you can guarantee by doing this. I really thought that this was originally a U8. Let's see what... it looks like it hasn't changed for a long time. So if it was, wasn't anytime soon. So I might... this is a little tricky because there most likely are types that use bool. And now those are all going to assume a 32-bit value, even though most of the time I think, like in standard int, for example, standard bool. Oh, don't I have standard bool? Bool.h. What is that? I thought it was standard bool. So we have some compat versions. And yeah, the underscore bool. Where is... Let's look at the C++ version. And that's all including. So where else would maybe I just don't have those headers installed, but why? They should come as, I would assume that they would be part of. Just glibc. And it's not as interesting as I hoped. I was hoping that it was going to map it to UN8, but it's not. There is the bool underscore type. Drat. Well, I'm not finding what I thought existed. Yeah, and I guess bool is defined as an int. Underscore bool. Underscore bool was the original kind of extension name for bool. Anyway, back to what we were doing. So I guess that's fine then. I was wrong about the bool definition. That's what happens when you get old. You make assumptions and you think you're right because life. So we'll change that back to a U8. Just knowing that it is a Boolean. And that cleans up those instructions. We have some jump differences here. These are quite a bit different. I'm going to go down and see if those would be anywhere close. They're not. Where this is jumping to is down on line 154, where there's a step and a break. That's up here on line 161. That also is bizarre. So MetroWorks isn't optimized. We often see code gen like this on GCC because we have this pattern of incrementing the step and then breaking and basically returning out of the function right away. But we don't see that here. And that makes me think it's really a go-to. And it's an odd go-to because it doesn't do anything except for increment the step and then return. Bizarre. Right. There's an ad starting soon, and during the ad I am going to take a small break, but we will be back. I will finish this up too. I changed this. This is my preferred idiom for this, and we see it pretty frequently. We're going to go through and say this function is going to allocate a primitive index, and I think it's grabbing 48 primitives. And if the index returns -1, that means the allocation couldn't happen. Either there wasn't enough primitives in the buffer available or something else. And usually this is something graphical and isn't behavioral in any way. So if it didn't show, it'd be a graphical glitch. But it's safe to just destroy this entity and keep going with the rest of the game. So my preference usually is to do this check and return early. What this code is telling me, though, is it's doing the inverted check and doing an else at the end. And there's that same odd jump here as well. I'm going to save this, and I'll be right back. All right. Thanks for the patience. Let's keep going. Eldritch, have you ever been in contact with Konami or IGA in relation to any of the randomizer stuff that you guys do? So this is the same issue that was happening above. And so I think I'm going to put a label here. I really hate doing this. It is against everything good and pure in the world. These are slightly different, which is also funny. This one's jumping to 2EO, and this one is to 2DC, which is one instruction earlier. But let's go down and see where those instructions are. In one case, oh, this is really weird. It's almost like it is optimized. Because in one case, we're branching here and loading the step and then incrementing. And then storing, jumping again, and jumping to the end, storing it in the delay slot. I'm gonna hold out and not do that quite yet. It does look like there is going to be a jump here. So let's, or go to, I should say, go to with a label. Let's look at 89. Here we're storing to a temporary variable, and then doing a bunch of shifts. Usually this just means the type is wrong, and it looks like that's the case here. These shifts get generated by GCC to make sure the value is masked appropriately. the PSP has the SEH instruction for doing things like that. And so usually those are superfluous. And so we see that shift, actually, there is a shift here. That's not getting generated. So let's try adding that here. The shift that's getting generated is in the wrong direction. So why are we shifting left? I'm going to peek at the M2C decomp and see what it's producing. It does have the shift in there as well. Oh, but it's a different value. I see. So this var v0, that's the difference. Oh, somehow I got back to the PlayStation version. I don't know what... That's why all those jumps were in case. It is the optimized version. All right, now I need to start back over and figure out what I did wrong. All right. So I have a mishmash of things that I already corrected and things that are newly corrected. So here we have, I originally had this as a sine 16, and usually that's safe, but it looks like prim index is a sine 32 in this case. And so we should get a bunch of additional instructions for doing all the shifts, but that it should match up a little closer. And then we load, so we're storing the value back to the stack, reading it forward from the stack. These are looking out of order. I originally changed the order to what I thought would better match, but it looks like I was wrong there. And that looks better. There's kind of a common order for how these flags are set, and then this may be a for loop. That's checking prim next. And the reason I say that is I'm not quite sure yet. This last prim in the original is getting stored to register S0, whereas in ours currently it's being stored to the stack. That's because we have too many stack variables, and register pressure is causing those to be forced back, and the MetroWorks is saying, I have too many things, I'm not an optimizer, or I'm not doing an optimization pass at this point, so I'm just going to push everything to the stack where I have effectively infinite registers, but then I have to read them back from the stack every time. Some things, though, it does put in to temporary registers, and it's possible that this assignment is in the loop, and it's just setting it to prim each time, and GCC recognizes that. So let's try that. No, that this is actually happening. I see where this is happening in that code here. So the big issue here is really around this not getting stored to a register, but getting pushed back to the stack, the last prim. And last prim definitely needs to happen before the next value gets set. So I think that's all that is. The difference here is stack allocation versus register allocation. The increment here is not happening. There's a branch down to 188, and 188 is where the increment happens. Kind of an odd structure, and that's why I like doing error handling up front, because we have this condition check, but the result of its failure is all the way down here, and it's I just like keeping those close together, like check for an invariant, and if that check fails, then do the exception case. But that's not the way that SOTN is written necessarily. All right, so now we're back here again, and looking at, and this is where I wanted to see what M2C generated. So something quite a bit different. We're grabbing the value of this unknown 80. This looks like I think this is an absolute value check. So we have our temp A2, which is this unknown 80 field, dividing it by 2 and then adding it back to itself and then shifting over by 15. So this is all basically happening in a signed 15-bit, 16-bit domain, and what we have left at the end is the sign bit in the farthest right position for 16 bits. Really, so this has to do with the size of the data versus the size of the register, and then the signedness. I'm going to go back and look at it over here in the assembly as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this is an idiom that is encoded in M2C for M2C to recognize. So we'll have to figure this out. It's a little bizarre, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's possibly a mod, like 15 or 16. So let's try a few things and see what we can generate. So we're going directly to var A2. I think by the end of this, we'll be able to get rid of most of these things. There's no jump to the absolute value. So it's either a division or a mod operation. And we just have to figure out which one it is. We're loading the wrong thing. And I think I had to guess on this, and so my guess was wrong. We need to be loading a word here, so unknown 80 for this struct is not 16 bits, but 32 bits. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be signed. That makes temp v1. I don't think we even need temp v1. I'm going to try a few things here. And see if we can figure out which what operations. So we get pretty close with the divide by 15. Let's look at some of the other values that get generated here. So 31 actually, maybe, or 32. So it does look like it's probably a division. We just need to figure out what division it is. And there are ways to do this. What they are, I don't know. So I like to put in numbers until I get one. This should just be a shift, and we'll see if we can find them. There are tables for this as well, and it's probably a table that I should either make so basically we have these magic numbers, and the magic numbers are going to approximate the division operation. And if we can figure out the right values, and like I said, it may be a mod as well, and so there may be something additional. I think I might start a table. I'm up to 31 now and still don't have it. So we might have to skip this for now. 32 will be an even shift. I'm going to start a new doc. And we'll keep going here. I might actually go through the mods as well and see if I can find a mod that matches. I would expect the magic numbers to be relatively similar, and the structure of the mod assignments looks quite a bit different. So maybe it's not mod. The hint really is this This is a mask operation here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to defer on this, and I'll keep going. We know that it's wrong, and so we should be able to figure out what's going on eventually. All right, so we have we're at case 3. We have this operation. We're grabbing position X high. Rename this temp T1. Just call it pause X. And pause Y. A lot of times these are very out of order compared to the PlayStation code gen. One of them is coming up as a signed and the other unsigned. We can see if we can tell which type is right, or maybe both are correct. It looks like they actually should be signed 32s because we have sign extensions, so let's fix that. Not quite right. So maybe sign 16s for both of them. There might be something else going on. And all of this, I'm going to keep them as sign 16. All of this is happening in registers as well. So there's some other things that we have to deal with first. Even the easy ones can be tricky. I say easy, it's they all have their quirks. The additional setting of I is not necessary. This V and U, it looks like maybe happening inline. We need to get prim pulled out into the correct position. Then we have our loop here. So I think these are not necessarily correct. Var S2 is I. So our X0 is I plus position X, which we have already, minus var S4 here, which is the same as our var A2 above, minus 32. I'm going to try to get rid of the parens. I prefer not to have them if I don't need. And usually these are written to look pretty similar. In this case, not. We'll see if that is correct. So var S2 is trailing for Y versus leading for X. And now we have our math up here that's going to get pulled down. It was moved up here because it's constant, and so this actually shows that it is not, though. So we can move that down below. Var S4 is our var A2. And that's times 2 plus 64 minus I times 2. Multiplication does take precedence over addition, so don't need the parens here, but I find it easier to read. And then the mask is not necessary because it's being stored into a 8-bit field, and so that'll get generated automatically. And then, oh, so we did get this actually on the PlayStation side. It was just done through variables instead. And so here we have X94, which is going to be 128 plus 16, 144, 144 plus another, so 148, I think? We'll check it. Minus pi times 2. And we can get rid of all this, and then we can get rid of our U and V, which will help our stack as well. So let's go back down to line 94 and see what's going on. Oh, so there is an absolute value here, but it's not a jump. I don't think built-in abs works in MetroWorks. No. So we'll make a little macro here. And that's not quite right. I could get the macro right. It's still not going to be totally correct. So let's emulate what's going on here, which is if var_a2 is less than 0, var_a2 is going to be equal to negative var_a2. And no macro. Some of the variables and registers are probably wrong, but we have all the right instructions now. This is actually being stored back to stack 140, so this is actually probably all correct. We do have the division here wrong still, so we'll have to figure that out. It'd be nice to figure out what's going on. I could poke at this for most of the day. This probably has something to do with the size of each of the texture components. And so without knowing that, so var_a2 is basically our X offset. So let's rename that. And that'll make that a little easier to read. And we can keep going. So when we have SEH, that's not where we are. We're down here around line 97. So we have more of these values that are stored back to the stack. As we get rid of superfluous variables, we should have a better idea of which of those are necessary and not. So I'm not too concerned about those right now. It looks like down around 99. There is ordering. So I did mention that we might like to put some of those in the order that we want, but really, and maybe not group other things. But we do need to force ordering to match what was there originally. I'm going to add one more group here, and that looks like it works. The only thing missing here is this store back to the stack. So we can invert this and say what would this look like, and how could I get this ordering without all the parentheses? And let me try to do that. So let's look at that way. And this looks like it generates the same thing. So the only difference then between the ordering between these two is adding this offset x to the x calculation. So we can keep going down. Again, some stack versus register stuff. Not too concerned with that. This 84 is treated as a Boolean. So we get rid of that, and then it'll get rid of the mask, which is nice. Some more register issues. We'll deal with that towards the end. It looks like this may be written kind of like this in line, and G and B are backwards. There may be everything else matches up, and even though the registers are different, if we look at what registers are being used on each instruction, they're consistent across the two. So even though the value is different, we can assume that this is correct. What I don't know and would be a little interested in is, oh, I screwed this up. One of these I have wrong, or it's a bug. So this offset is setting R and R0 and B0, but G is never getting set. And we've already set R up here, and our offsets are correct, so offset 8. So I think that this is a bug. And so I'm going to make a little note. But it does look like the intention was to set green and blue to the R0 value, and then it just never is. And we can see that if I change this to G, the offset of one of these should change. Oh, no, I'm wrong. It was 9. I didn't see the difference. So this does look correct. This may be set one other way. It's possible that this is written like this. We can check this out as well. No, this has some additional masks. So let's try this. Let's put the plus equals in line. And that requires some additional masks as well. So I think what we have here is the correct way to do it. Sorry, let me try that one more time. Try to get it correct. Yeah, we have additional mask that way, so yeah, that is correct like that. On 1, 2, 3, we should be storing a byte instead of a word. I thought that I fixed this, but let's take a look at it. Unknown 80 should be a uint8. We could say just u8. And that matches in a whole bunch of additional stuff matches then as well. We are matching the wrong... Oh, and let me undo that. Because we are matching the wrong place. We should be matching 8 bytes further down. So I need to add some padding here. So 8.4 will be just an anonymous field. Another one. Can I put 64 here? No, it won't let me put a 64-bit value. Too bad. Another one. And then 8C is where we need a byte. So we'll call this unknown 8C. And then, still not quite right, still 4 bytes off. So we need unknown 90 and another 32 bits of padding. Comment in chat or comments if you're watching later on YouTube. Do you prefer... Oh, I'm still wrong on this one. I'm looking at the wrong place. Looking at the wrong place. I was more right. First time I'm actually off still by quite a bit though. It's just the next field. So we were just looking at 8.4. Do you prefer bits or bytes? They say off by 32 bits or off by 4 bytes. Putting this constant 1 into register S6 troubles me a little bit because S6 is typically used for variables, and we don't have a variable here. But all the registers are very off at the moment, so I'm not going to focus on it and just keep going. All right, and so we have kind of a mess here and need to figure this out. Let's look up above here. This assignment of 31 appears to be happening, but possibly later. Or it's being put in a variable. So it's actually being passed to no, it's I was going to say it's being passed as an arg because it's using the A1 register, but that's not the case. A0 register is this particular value. So this tells me that this is an entity. So we're going to use EID 24. I'm going to save this, bring this other stuff back to the PlayStation version, and we're going to add a. I'm just going to add a macro for it for now. And this will be entity ID 24, which is 18 in hex. And if this is the PSP version, we're going to define EID as this global. And that global is, I think, assigned 16, but I'm not sure. And we're not compiling on the PlayStation side anymore, so let's see what's wrong. My changes to the entity extension don't sync between the two editors, so I need to do that manually. And this is a little bit closer than we were. So this function is extremely slow going, but we are making progress. So I'm going to copy all this back to the PSP side. Oops. Didn't want to paste it twice. And there we go. So then in this call to create entity from entity, I'm going to use EID 18. That's hex 18. That's typically what we use. And then it'll pick up this global variable that's defined up here. There is something is loading variables from the stack. And it's not clear to me why these are out of order at the moment. But I will worry about that later. There's so much additional low-hanging fruit that I'm not terribly concerned with that at the moment. The 9 is unnecessary, and we can actually say greater than 8. And we should generate the same thing. The prim, we are storing it in a register. On ours, it's looks like it is possibly getting pushed to the stack. So I'm going to ignore that for now. There is some ordering stuff. It looks like there's a bunch to clean up down here. This is actually very similar to above. We have G equals B equals R. And that should give us the correct thing. We have a branch here, if this is the case, down to B58. So let's go to B58. It's pretty far down. B58. That doesn't look right. Branch to B58. Can I click this and will it take me to where I need to go? It will not. I'm not sure if that's no, it can't be B58 further. It must be. Oh, B58 is the end. So here, if we set the colors, we are exiting. So now we have a bunch of stuff to take care of. This looks like an I variable, so I is less than 16. and everywhere that we had var so underscore 3, that's going to be I, and we can get rid of that variable. We already have position X and position Y variables, and we can try to determine what the correct ordering of these is. This should be, let's see. So I need to, the store to offset 64 is up here, so we need to go up. But maybe not that far. And primitive, we can't do anything about it until we read it, so that is correct. It looks like flags should be much higher. For offset 34, offset 34 comes before 64. So these two reads look like they come after. And they may come way after. So we're reading from offset 86 and offset 78. And I don't see any of that on the PSP side. It's possible that those are happening inline down here much later. So we'll move this down and try to get all these instructions to match up. And it looks like they do. And so we have some additional reads up here that I think are just going to end up being direct reads. All right, so our we need to figure out these variables. Var S1, my guess is that these are all going to be I shifted by 6 or 8. So if we look at what's being passed to cosine, we have basically I shifted by 8. And it does look like this happens over and over instead of being pulled out. Again, this is the difference between an optimizer and a non-optimizer for the final machine code. We are moving this, instead of putting the value directly into the register, it's being moved into the register, which suggests that there's another variable here. And we'll see if that is the case. We can call it var S1, that's fine. And we'll shift 8 and then use var S1 here. And the main difference is it's happening, we're not pre-computing the 0 value. And so what else do we have then? We have an additional shift by 2, which is this times 4. And so here we have a shift right by 4, but then a shift left by 6, and another shift right by 8. So let's see if we can tell what's going on. So I'm going to try to do the shift left by 6, see if it does add it in. We're getting a sign extension here, which isn't in the original. going to get rid of the cast, which may be causing that. The load, so this is loading the stack pointer value, 86, which is this temp S5. That's the reason we need the sign extension, is because that's a 16-bit value. It looks like that's S6. I'm not sure. Let's add our shift back by 8 and get that in there as well. You missed the question that I had for you with potentially dire legal consequences. I'm joking, only partially. We're doing Doppelganger 10 and 40. This is, I believe, one of the doors. It's in basically all of the duplicated code between Doppelganger 10 and 40. I want to, as much as possible, try to get that finished off. And so then the only thing that's left will be unique code between the two. The question I did have for you is whether or not you or anybody, this is not entrapment, but if anybody working on Randomizer has been in contact with anybody from Konami, or even anybody from just the Soten team, maybe that went on to Bloodstained, and if anybody has ever made a comment from that group to you guys. I'm very tempted. So I've reached out to a bunch of people regarding this talk next month, and everybody's been very receptive. I really don't want to reach out to Konami or basically provide any indication that we exist at all. I just have a general concern that even though there's nothing illegal as part of the project, they have more lawyers than we have money, and at least me, maybe not the other guys. I don't really want to be involved in anything like that. So we kind of need to do the same thing over here. There's a bunch of shifts. The shifts are a little odd. The shift by 6, I understand. The shift by 4 as well. No, the shift by 6, does that make sense? Yes. The shift by 4 doesn't, except as a division by 16, a cheap division by 16. The shift by 6 is a conversion between Soten fixed values and the PlayStation fixed value format. I didn't know, so I know Bloodstained, for example, has a bunch of randomizer stuff. Is the randomizer stuff that you did influenced by what was put into Bloodstained, or do you know if what was in Bloodstained was influenced by the work that you guys have done? Okay, so they have showed up to Dragon Blitz's stream, and I'm assuming it was cordial. Okay, shop price rando. Did that randomizer exist before your randomizer? I guess it's good that they are aware of it and were amused by it. Konami moving into like just IP holding and not really like being a game dev anymore has always made me suspicious that they would be overly litigious. So this one is particularly gross, but it actually compiles to exactly what we want. The shift by 4 is, like I said, it's a cheap division by 16. Multiplying back by 15. No, sorry, 31. No, 30? I'm having trouble mathing. Oh, hey, Mozilla. Good to have you. Not to give anybody... Well, I will keep this opinion to myself about certain things. The things that I'm most concerned about doing this is just making sure that there's legal precedent for the things that I do on the stream and that we talk about publicly in Discord. And beyond that, I'm not really concerned. I'm really curious, I guess, if we have this E0 here, which is odd. Well, anyway, I'm not going to talk about anything more without my lawyer. That looks like negative 28. No, negative 32. It is negative 32. So let's try that. Let's subtract 32 there, and it'll kind of line up and look like this line above. Let's see. Sorry. Eldritch, are you in the LA area? I don't know anything about milkshakes in LA. I came from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee has a frozen custard and a chocolate frozen custard shake, malt, I should say. Frozen custard malt is about the best thing you can get. And it probably has 1,500 calories. Oh, and are you from Milwaukee? Do you or have you frequented Milwaukee? I used to live in the Reston area, and north of Reston Town Center was a custard place that wasn't too bad. Is that I'm looking. Yeah, I haven't found anything quite as good. The best we have here is Culver's, which is And if you lived in Milwaukee, you wouldn't go to Culver's. But because it's the only thing I have, I break down and I go to Culver's. All right, so still register issues. So down here we have a bunch of these. So these temps that are being calculated up above, it looks like really should just be in line here down below. I'm going to try to figure out where all those are and fix that. Temp S7 being the same as temp S5 is kind of funny. These are going to be inline assignments. When they're out of order, they're almost always inline assignments. We lost our fat burger. We used to have one close by, but not anywhere good. I do think Milwaukee had a delicacy called a butter burger, and it's not replicated enough places. Again, another like heart attack on a plate or in a cup. You don't drink a burger out of a cup, obviously. Yeah, so we used to have a fat burger, and I'm trying to remember where it was. A lot of our burger places. So we had the Habit, which was I thought the Habit was decent. They don't exist anymore near us. I also liked. We used to have a Smash Burger, and we have like a ton of Smash Burger gift cards that we bought because it was nearby, and that doesn't exist anymore. All these places went away. Well, when you have nothing, it's better than that. Sometimes you just need a burger. 100 is going to be 256. So I have a break here, and I think I added this break. It wasn't the original, and I thought this seems odd, and I must have missed putting the break in, but this does look like a legitimate fall through. Another one of these plus equals. Hopdoddy is excellent, and I didn't realize that I needed boozy shakes until until boozy shakes were on the menu. That is dangerous. I think we have some range macros that would work here, but I'm just gonna put these inline for now, and then if I remember, I'll go back and use the range macros. I'll have to put it on the list for the not too distant future. So a lot of ordering issues here. Looks like I have this array out of $16. Oh, I guess the comparison is going to be way down here. And so here we have a bunch of these. A lot of these are the same type of structure. We're going to set the value. We're going to check it against something and then do some math. I think all these are mods. I'm going to see if I can do better with these than I did with the division above. But I think that's what all these are. So we're around line 218. And we could check. Actually, the M2C version of this is no better. So I don't really care about that at the moment. I'm going to assume that these are also inline. And so to me, this seems so we're checking this for less than 0, adding 15, and then doing this divide by 16, multiply by 16 business. So I think that this is going to be a mod 16. Let's try it. Let's see. And the minus here too. I'm just gonna put the mod 16 inline. I should go and look. So yeah, this almost perfectly slotted in. There is a variable that I need, so I will have to use this var v03, and I can create a new variable for that. But I'm glad that that worked out. We're getting a store back to the stack and a load again, which can't be helped yet. But then we're going to see the same thing kind of over and over, where we have some list here, and we can go see what that list is. If you ever get back to Milwaukee, or ever in Milwaukee, it's opinionated, but my vote is Kops for KOPPS for the best hamburger ever. So yeah, kind of as expected, we have 16 values here. I'm still not sure. I originally put a comment in that this is the lights in the background when Doppelganger's loading. I think it's the rotating gradient. Not quite sure. There was a place that shut down in Milwaukee that had the second best burger ever. The third best burger is Red Mill in Seattle. And I would not consider Seattle really unless it's like Asian food. Asian food is excellent in Seattle. Everything else is just bland. But Red Mill has the best burger. That is not a butter burger. And then I think price to quality In-N-Out would probably be the next. I think is there In-N-Out now in Texas? I thought they were expanding. eastward. Yeah, there are some in Texas now. That is crazy. I'm not saying anything about the experience of In-N-Out. I'm saying a double-double with fried onions is awesome. I agree. Yes, I will concede that In-N-Out is way too hyped, and if you go in with the experience that a lot of people make it out to be, you will be disappointed. I completely agree. But when you pay $3 for a double cheeseburger with fried onions that's made fresh and not frozen, that is the experience. For me, anyway. To each his own, etc. So what's interesting, I think, and I'm going to just cover this one more time. What's interesting about these values is Mozilla, Eldritch, I don't know if you have any experience with any of the other Konami code bases or decomping them. I have been curious to know whether or not Metal Gear Solid is the same way. Konami uses 16-bit fixed point values. And so they have 16 bits for the integer portion, 16 bits for the fractional portion. The PlayStation SDK uses 24 bits for the integer portion and 12 bits for the fractional portion. So you get all these scenarios where you have to convert one way or the other. And so the values here are all in the SOTN 16-bit fixed point. And so what we're doing here, this is actually a fixed point value. 0.1 is going to be, I believe, 1/16 fixed. I used to have a script that would do it for me. Maybe I have it still on my laptop. I broke my environment one day and... Oh yeah, I do. Good. Did a hard clean and lost a bunch of stuff. So let's see what... thousands. Yeah, it is 1/16. So we have this macro for fixed values where we can put in what we would consider floating point values, and they get converted to the correct binary representation at compile time. Along the way through all of this, I read somewhere that somebody thought that code base is similar in some way. I'm not sure how or why or what that could mean, but I thought it odd. All right, so here we have this looks like I plus 5, and then we're doing a bunch of mod stuff again. Yeah, definitely odd choice to do 2412, and I don't know enough. I don't know what I don't know. So maybe there was a off-the-shelf fixed point like math coprocessor that made that obvious. Let's see. So we have the same thing. So hex 14 is going to be 20. So it's going to be a mod 20 here. I believe. And doesn't quite work out, let's try 16 there as well. Oh, it's the same. It'll be the same. So this is odd. I think all of this can just go away. I think this is code that was generated by the PlayStation. And so this may be I plus 5. And it definitely is possible that this is pulled out into a variable, and in fact it is. So let's do that. So we'll do I plus 5 mod 16. And that's where those some of those other values come from then, is just the GCC optimizer. Trying to pre-compute as much as possible and use branches instead of division. And then we get the stack stuff. Don't we all, though? Don't we all need to touch grass? Not the worst advice. Probably not what you want to hear, though, either. And so we're just going to keep doing this over and over. Oh. Sorry. I almost denied your post. All right, so if the result of this calculation is less than 0, we're adding 255, and this kind of gives us the loop then around the color sequence, which is what makes me think it's that color wheel that shows up in the back. Is there anything else that... No, there's this shift by 8. That makes sense because so we're in this domain of 16 fixed point numbers. The cast is not going to be necessary. We're moving some things around into temporary registers before it gets stored back. So is there a separate variable here? Possibly. I'll worry about that in a little bit as well. And I'm going to go back to this var v0. Yes. Yep. So somewhat certain that's what this is the lights in the back of the vault door. I just saw what time it is, and so I actually have to get going. It's too late for me. We've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, working on Doppelganger 10 and 40, any of the functions that overlap between those two. You can go to soten.z.dev. Really appreciate Mozilla and Eldritch for showing up, and like on most days, Entropy Gravity Well and Dig Down Deep, thanks for joining chat. It's always great having people stop by, talk about burgers, 3D printing, all the things that aren't Soten while we do our Soten decomp. I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll see more. If you're in the Phoenix metro area and want to stop by Game On Expo, I'll be there Saturday, April 5th at 7 p.m. Stop by and say hi. and listen to a watered down version of what we do here every day. Adios.